Welcome back to Zarila HOA Stories. Drop your country or city name in comments. Chapter 1. The Golden Field. The sun was dipping low, washing the street in orange light. Ethan stood in his backyard, dirt under his fingernails, sweat rolling down his brow. He leaned against the wooden fence and admired the rows of corn swaying gently in the evening breeze. This wasn't just a hobby. It was his pride. His father had taught him how to plant corn, how to care for it, how to know by the touch of a leaf when it was thirsty. Every stalk meant something to him. He smiled as he imagined the harvest: fresh corn boiled for his kids, grilled cobs at the neighborhood cookout, jars of kernels tucked away for the winter. From the street, though, not everyone saw it that way. Across the road, Karen stood by her mailbox, arms crossed, lips tight. She didn't bother to hide the glare in her eyes. Everyone in the neighborhood knew her, the self-proclaimed guardian of HOA rules. Her clipboard was her sword, her sharp tongue her shield. Where others saw a peaceful neighborhood, she saw violations waiting to be crushed. She turned to the HOA president, Mr. Delgado, who had just stepped out to collect his mail. "Look at it," she said, her voice sharp. "Does this look like a farm to you? This is supposed to be a residential community." Delgado sighed. "Karen, the board approved his landscaping plan. It's within guidelines." Karen's eyes narrowed. "Guidelines? It looks like Iowa moved in next door. This isn't a farm town, it's a neighborhood. That Cornfield is an eyesore." Delgado muttered something under his breath and shuffled back inside, unwilling to spar with her. But Karen stayed there, staring, plotting. Ethan noticed her from the yard. He straightened, brushing the dirt from his jeans. Their eyes locked across the street. Karen didn't look away. Instead, she smiled, a thin, cold smile that made Ethan's chest tighten. That night, Ethan was closing the shed when he heard footsteps on the sidewalk. He turned. Karen was standing at the edge of his driveway. "Evening," Ethan said, trying to keep his tone polite. Karen's eyes scanned the cornfield like a predator circling prey. "You know this violates HOA rules, right?" "No, it doesn't," Ethan replied firmly. "I have written approval. You've seen it." Karen tilted her head, her smile widening just enough to unsettle him. "Rules can be interpreted." Ethan folded his arms. "Karen, I'm not tearing it down. My kids helped me plant this. We worked for it. It's staying." Her expression shifted, amusement flickering in her eyes. "Be careful, Ethan. Things in this neighborhood have a way of disappearing." The air went still. The crickets seemed louder. Ethan's jaw tightened, but he said nothing. He didn't trust his own voice not to crack with anger. Karen turned slowly and walked away, her heels clicking against the pavement like the ticking of a clock. Before she reached her house, she looked back one last time, her shadow long and sharp in the streetlight. Inside, Ethan's wife called from the kitchen window. "Who was that?" "Karen," Ethan muttered. He locked the shed, his hand trembling just slightly. He glanced back at the rows of corn, their golden leaves whispering in the wind. For the first time since planting them, the field didn't feel like pride. It felt like a target. And as he stood there in the dim light, Ethan couldn't shake the feeling that Karen's promise wasn't empty. Something was coming. Chapter 2. The Complaint. The next morning, the sky was gray and heavy, a storm waiting to break. Ethan stood on his porch with a mug of coffee, watching the clouds roll over the rooftop. He liked mornings like this, quiet, steady, the world still half asleep. But peace didn't last long. A knock at the door cut through the silence. Hard, fast, impatient. Ethan set down his mug and opened the door. Karen stood there, her polished shoes on the welcome mat, her clipboard clutched like a weapon. Her eyes darted past him into the house, then flicked toward the backyard. "Good morning," Ethan said flatly. Karen didn't return the greeting. "We need to talk about your field." Ethan's jaw tightened. "We already talked." Karen flipped through her papers with a practiced snap. Section 12, Paragraph 4. No agricultural structures or plantings that resemble commercial farms. I have approval, Ethan said, cutting her off. He walked to the counter, grabbed the folded letter from the HOA, and thrust it toward her. Signed by Delgado himself. Karen didn't look at the paper. She just smirked. Rules change. Interpretations change. Ethan stepped closer, his voice low. You can twist words all you want, but this corn stays. I'm not tearing it out. Karen's smile widened, but her eyes stayed cold. You're being selfish. That corn is ugly. It lowers property values. Neighbors are talking. They're not talking, Ethan shot back. You are. For a moment, the only sound was the rumble of distant thunder. Karen leaned forward, her voice almost a whisper. I'll give you one chance to do the right thing. Cut it down or I'll cut it down for you. Ethan felt heat rise in his chest. You step foot in my yard and you'll regret it. Karen laughed softly, as if amused by a child. She turned on her heel, heels clacking against the porch like hammers. But before she reached the sidewalk, she paused. You think this neighborhood belongs to you, she said without turning. It doesn't. It belongs to order. To rules. And rules are what I make of them. She walked away, her umbrella snapping open as rain began to fall. The storm broke that afternoon. Sheets of rain lashed the windows, thunder cracked overhead, and the corn swayed violently under the weight of the downpour. Ethan stood by the glass, his fists clenched. He replayed Karen's words in his head, each one a nail driven deeper. When the rain eased, Ethan pulled on his boots and went outside. The corn was bent but not broken. He ran his hands over the wet leaves, checking the stalks one by one. Despite the storm, the field was alive. Behind him, a voice called out. Nice field, Ethan. He spun. It was Mark, his neighbor 2 houses down. A quiet man, rarely spoke more than a nod at the mailbox. Now he stood under a dripping hood, his eyes flicking nervously toward Karen's house. Careful, Mark said. She's watching you. Ethan's shoulders stiffened. She threatened me. Mark looked over his shoulder again, then leaned closer. Don't underestimate her. Last year, she had the Petersons' shed torn down. Claimed it violated setback rules. They fought her and lost. Ethan swallowed hard. This isn't a shed. It's food for my family. Mark nodded, but his face was pale. Doesn't matter. When Karen wants something gone, it goes. Ethan looked back at his cornfield, water dripping from the golden tassels. He felt both pride and dread tangled together. I won't give in, Ethan said. Mark gave a sad half-smile. Then be ready. She doesn't stop until she wins. That night, Ethan was locking the shed when he noticed movement. A figure at the edge of his yard. He squinted through the dark. Karen. Standing still, half hidden by a tree. The streetlight flickered above her, throwing her face in and out of shadow. She didn't move. She just stood there, watching. Ethan's chest tightened. He stepped forward, anger rising, but before he could shout, a car passed down the street. Its headlights swept across the lawn, and when they faded, Karen was gone. Ethan's breath caught in his throat. His hands trembled as he fumbled with the lock. He looked back at the rows of corn swaying gently in the night air. For the first time, they no longer looked safe. They looked like a spark waiting for a flame. Chapter 3: Shadows in the Night. The street was quiet after sunset, the kind of silence that made every sound sharper. Crickets hummed, a dog barked in the distance, and Ethan sat at the kitchen table, staring at the letter from the HOA like it was a shield he wasn't sure would hold. His wife, Anna, poured him a cup of tea. She won't actually do anything, she said softly. It's just threats. Ethan didn't answer. He looked through the window at the cornfield, its stalks swaying gently in the moonlight. A storm had nearly bent them the day before, but they had survived. He wished he felt as strong. I saw her, he finally said. Last night. At the edge of the yard. Anna frowned. Karen? At this hour. She was watching. His voice was flat. Didn't move. Didn't say a word. Just watching. Anna put her hand on his arm. She's trying to scare you. Don't let her. But deep down, Ethan already felt the fear rooting in him. Later that night, Ethan went out to the shed to grab some tools. The air was cool, the moon half hidden behind clouds. He unlocked the door, reached for the hammer, and froze. A crunch of footstep. He spun, heart pounding. Nothing. Just shadows and the whisper of leaves. He stood still, listening. The silence was too thick. Then, another sound. A faint click, like a lighter being flicked. "Who's there?" Ethan shouted, his voice sharper than he intended. The night swallowed his words. No reply. Only the rustle of branches. Ethan gripped the hammer tighter, scanning the yard. His cornfield loomed tall and dark, rows of stalks swaying gently like figures shifting in the dark. His pulse hammered in his ears. He stepped forward, pushing through the first row of corn. The leaves slapped against his shoulders, the earth soft under his boots. "Karen," he called out. "I know it's you." No answer. Only the hiss of wind weaving through the stalks. Halfway through the rows, Ethan stopped. The corn seemed endless in the dark, the path behind him already hidden. He breathed hard, his knuckles white around the hammer. Then, suddenly, he saw it. A faint orange glow, low to the ground, flickering between the stalks. His stomach dropped. Fire. "Hey!" Ethan shouted, rushing forward. But when he burst through the row, nothing. Just dirt, stalks, and moonlight. No flame. No one. His chest heaved. He could swear he'd seen it, felt the heat for half a second. But now it was gone. Behind him, something cracked. A twig. He spun, raising the hammer, ready to strike. But there was no one. Just the shifting shadows. By the time Ethan stumbled back to the house, sweat clung to his skin despite the cool night. Anna was waiting at the door, worry in her eyes. "What happened?" she asked. Ethan's hands shook as he locked the shed. "She's out there," he said. "I don't know what she's planning, but she's out there." Anna hugged him, but Ethan's eyes stayed fixed on the cornfield. The stalks moved in the wind, whispering like voices. He barely slept that night. The next morning, Ethan found something strange. At the edge of the cornfield, near the fence, the soil was blackened. Not from rain. Burned. He knelt, touched the dirt. His fingers came away dark. His chest tightened. It hadn't been his imagination. Someone had been testing the fire. Karen's voice echoed in his memory. "Things in this neighborhood have a way of disappearing." Ethan stood, scanning the street. Across the way, Karen's curtains twitched. Just for a second. Enough to know she'd been watching. His fists clenched. The corn wasn't just in danger. The whole house was. And Ethan realized Karen wasn't finished. She was just getting started. Chapter 4. The Inferno. The night began calm. Too calm. Ethan sat on the back porch, a beer in his hand, his eyes locked on the cornfield. The rows stood tall, black silhouettes against the dim starlight. Each sway of the stalks felt like a whisper, a warning he couldn't ignore. Anna came outside, wrapping a blanket around her shoulders. "You've been staring out there for hours," she said softly. Ethan didn't look at her. "She's planning something." "I know it." Anna tried to smile, but it faltered. "You can't live like this, Ethan. You'll lose your mind." "I'll lose more than that if she lights it up," he muttered. The air grew heavy, the kind of stillness before something breaks. Then, just past midnight, the smell hit him. Smoke. Ethan shot up, the bottle clattering to the floor. His heart hammered as he scanned the field. At first, nothing. Then he saw it. A glow. Orange, flickering, alive. "Anna," he shouted. "Call 911. He sprinted into the yard, boots pounding the grass. The fire was spreading fast, tongues of flame racing up the dry stalks, snapping them like kindling. Heat blasted his face as he grabbed a garden hose, spraying desperately. But the water was a whisper against a roar. "Come on!" Ethan yelled, dragging the hose deeper into the field. The flames pushed back, smoke choking his lungs. Sparks leapt into the night sky, carried by the wind. Behind him, Anna screamed from the porch, "Ethan, get out of there!" But he couldn't leave. This was his work, his pride, his family's food. He pulled the hose closer, coughing, eyes burning. The fire hissed, devouring the corn row by row. Then he saw movement. Through the smoke, a shadow slipped between the stalks. Too tall, too deliberate to be chance. "Karen!" Ethan roared. "I see you." The figure didn't stop. It turned, and for a split second, the firelight lit up pale skin and sharp eyes. A smirk. Then the figure darted away, vanishing into the night. Ethan's stomach twisted. It was her. The wail of sirens cut through the night. Red and blue lights danced across the houses as fire trucks barreled down the street. Firefighters jumped out, hoses hissing, voices shouting commands. Neighbors poured out of their homes, standing in clusters, their faces pale with shock. "Back up!" a firefighter shouted at Ethan, dragging him away. "You'll kill yourself in there." Ethan stumbled to the lawn, choking, his eyes fixed on the blaze. The field he had nurtured for months was collapsing into ash. Each stalk fell with a crackle like bones snapping. Anna clutched his arm, tears streaking her face. "It's gone, Ethan. It's gone." The firefighters fought hard, spraying torrents of water, forcing the flames back. But the damage was done. Half the field was charred black, the rest smoldering. The smell of burned earth hung heavy in the air. Ethan dropped to his knees. His hands dug into the dirt, black soot staining his skin. His pride, his labor, his legacy, all of it burned. But beneath the grief, something else burned hotter. Rage. He looked up. Across the street, Karen stood in her yard. Her arms were crossed, her face lit by the dying flames. She didn't look shocked. She didn't look scared. She looked satisfied. Ethan's chest heaved. Their eyes met, and she smiled. The police approached him, one officer crouching low. "Sir, the fire marshal says this was no accident." Someone said it. "Do you know who might want to hurt you?" Ethan's gaze never left Karen. "Yeah," he said, his voice like stone. "I know." The officer followed his stare. His brows furrowed. "We'll investigate." But Ethan knew what that meant. Weeks of waiting, paperwork, excuses. By then, the proof would be gone. The neighbors whispered among themselves, throwing nervous glances at Karen's house. No one spoke her name out loud. Fear kept their mouths shut. Ethan stood, fists clenched so hard his nails dug into his palms. He felt the eyes of the whole neighborhood on him, waiting to see if he'd break. But he didn't break. He made a vow. "She started this," he whispered. "I'll finish it." The fire hissed, embers glowing like eyes in the dirt. The night was far from over. Because Ethan knew this wasn't just an attack on his corn. It was war. And wars didn't end with fire. They ended with someone falling. Chapter 5. The Silence. The fire was out by morning, but the smell stayed. Burned earth. Wet ash. Smoke clung to the street like a curse. Ethan stood at the edge of his ruined field, black soot staining his hands. The once tall stalks were now twisted skeletons, half collapsed, hissing faintly as they cooled. His chest ached as he bent down, scooping a handful of charred dirt. It crumbled in his palm like dust. Anna came outside with 2 mugs of coffee. She set one beside him, her eyes red from crying. "I'm sorry," she whispered. Ethan didn't move. "She did this." Anna's hand trembled as she touched his shoulder. "Don't say it out loud." But Ethan wanted to scream her name. He wanted the whole street to hear, "Karen." Later, a police officer knocked on the door. His tone was calm, almost rehearsed. "Sir, the fire marshal confirmed the fire was deliberate," he said. "We're investigating leads, but we'll need patience. Cases like this take time." Ethan's fists tightened. "Time? She's right there." She watched the fire burn. The officer glanced toward Karen's house, then back at Ethan. "Without witnesses willing to testify, there's nothing solid." "I'm sorry." Ethan's voice cracked. "So she gets away with it?" "For now," the officer admitted. "But people talk. If anyone saw something, we'll hear about it." When the officer left, Ethan slammed the door so hard the windows rattled. The neighborhood was alive with whispers. People gathered in small groups on driveways, speaking in low tones, darting nervous glances at Karen's house. Mark, the neighbor 2 doors down, approached Ethan quietly that afternoon. He kept his voice low. Everyone knows it was her. But no one wants to be the one to say it. Ethan's eyes burned. Why not? Because she destroys people, Mark said. Look what she did to you. Imagine what she'll do if you fight back. Ethan shook his head. If we all stood together, she couldn't touch us. Mark gave a bitter smile. People don't stand together, Ethan. Not here. Not when they're afraid. That evening, Ethan walked through what was left of the cornfield. The soil was black, the air still thick with smoke. He crouched low, tracing his fingers over a stalk that had somehow survived, green leaves singed but not broken. I'll rebuild, he muttered. She won't win. Behind him, Anna called softly, come inside. You've been out there all day. Ethan looked back. Across the street, Karen stood on her porch. No clipboard this time. No fake smile. Just stillness. Her eyes met his, sharp as glass, and she raised a single finger to her lips. Shoo. Ethan's blood boiled. Anna grabbed his arm. Don't. Not here. Not like this. He forced himself inside, but his hands shook with rage. That night, the house was quiet, too quiet. Ethan lay awake, staring at the ceiling, listening for sounds outside. Every creak of the wood, every scrape of a branch made his heart pound. Sometime after midnight, he heard it. A knock. Soft. Against the back door. Ethan froze. Anna stirred beside him, whispering, Did you hear that? Another knock. A little louder. Ethan slipped out of bed, grabbed the baseball bat from under the dresser, and crept to the kitchen. The back door rattled faintly, as if someone was testing the handle. Who's there? He barked. No answer. He yanked the curtain aside and looked through the glass. Nothing but darkness. But when he stepped back, he saw it, something taped to the door. A piece of paper, flapping gently in the night breeze. Ethan unlocked the door and snatched it down. His chest went cold as he read the words scrawled in black marker. Next time, it won't just be the corn. Chapter 6. The Backlash. The note burned in Ethan's hand. He crumpled it tight, his knuckles white, his breath sharp. Anna whispered, It's her. It has to be her. Ethan's voice was low, trembling. She wants me scared. She thinks I'll give up. Anna's eyes filled with tears. What if she means it? What if next time, it's us? Ethan shoved the paper into his pocket. Then I'll be ready. The next morning, the neighborhood buzzed. Whispers traveled faster than the wind. Everyone had heard about the fire. Everyone had seen the flashing lights. And now, everyone wanted distance. When Ethan stepped onto his porch, conversations died. Heads turned. Doors closed. Neighbors avoided his eyes. Mark, the only one brave enough, walked up with his arms crossed. You need to be careful. Ethan frowned. Careful of what? Of her, Mark said sharply. You think you're the first she's gone after? She knows how to break people. She knows the system. I don't care, Ethan said. She burned my field. Now she's threatening my family. I won't let her win. Mark leaned closer, whispering. Then watch your back. She doesn't just play dirty. She plays cruel. That afternoon, Ethan went to the HOA office. The president, Mr. Whitman, sat behind a polished desk, flipping through papers as if none of this mattered. Mr. Whitman, Ethan said firmly, slamming the burned note on the desk. This is harassment. You will do something. Whitman adjusted his glasses. Mr. Cole, we can't assume this came from an HOA member. Don't play games, Ethan snapped. We both know who's behind it. Whitman sighed, folding his hands. Accusations without proof are dangerous. If you persist, you'll be the one violating our code of conduct. Ethan's jaw clenched. So you'd rather protect her than protect the community? Whitman leaned back. His smile was thin. Sometimes, keeping peace means letting certain fires burn out on their own. Ethan's fist shook, but Anna's voice echoed in his head. Don't lose control. He turned and stormed out, slamming the door so hard the blinds rattled. By evening, tension snapped. Ethan was fixing the fence when he heard shouting. Across the street, Karen was standing in her driveway, clipboard in hand, yelling at a group of neighbors who had gathered on their lawns. You all saw what happened, she barked. And you know why it happened. He broke the rules. He planted something he wasn't allowed to. That fire? That was consequence. Gasps rippled through the crowd. Ethan dropped his hammer and stormed forward. That's a lie, he shouted. You set that fire yourself. Karen's eyes gleamed. Prove it. The crowd went silent. Neighbors shifted uncomfortably, avoiding Ethan's eyes. Some looked at Karen. Some looked at the ground. No one spoke. Ethan's voice cracked with rage. You're all afraid of her, aren't you? Karen smirked, stepping closer. Afraid? No. I lead this neighborhood. And you, her gaze flicked to the charred remains of the cornfield. You're nothing but ash. The words cut deep, but Ethan refused to step back. You'll answer for this. Karen leaned in, whispering so only he could hear. Not before you lose everything else. That night the storm came. Thunder cracked. Rain hammered the rooftops. Ethan sat by the window, staring at the charred cornfield. The note still sat on the table, a dark reminder of what was coming. Anna touched his arm. We can leave. Sell the house. Start over. Ethan shook his head. No. If we run, she wins. This is our home. Lightning split the sky. In the flash, Ethan saw movement outside. A figure darting near the fence line. He jumped to his feet, grabbing the bat again. She's here. Anna gasped. Ethan, don't. He yanked the door open and sprinted into the rain, the storm soaking him instantly. The backyard was alive with shadows, corn stalks swaying in the wind. Show yourself, he roared. A sound answered him, wood cracking, something snapping at the edge of the yard. He ran toward it, bat raised. And there, caught in the lightning, he saw it. Not Karen. A man. Hooded. Holding a red gas can. The stranger froze for a moment, then bolted toward the dark street. Ethan chased, slipping in the mud, his heart pounding. Hey, he shouted. Stop. The man disappeared into the storm, leaving the gas can half buried in the dirt. Ethan bent down, chest heaving, rain mixing with sweat. He picked it up. It reeked of gasoline. He turned back toward the house. Anna was on the porch, her face pale with fear. Ethan lifted the can high. It wasn't just her, he shouted through the storm. Someone else is helping her. The truth crashed over him like thunder. This wasn't just a battle with Karen. This was a war. Chapter 7. The Betrayal. The storm passed by dawn, leaving the streets wet and silent. Ethan sat at the kitchen table, the red gas can on the floor beside him. His clothes still smelled of smoke and rain. Anna placed a blanket around his shoulders. You chased him. You saw his face. Ethan shook his head. Hooded. Fast. But it wasn't random. He was waiting. He was ready. Anna frowned. So Karen isn't working alone? Ethan's eyes hardened. She has help. And I'll find out who. Later that day, Ethan took the gas can to the police station. The officer behind the desk barely glanced at it. We'll run prints, the officer said. But these things are sold everywhere. Could be anyone. Ethan leaned forward. It's not anyone. It's someone here. Someone protecting her. The officer's tone grew flat. Be careful, Mr. Cole. Pointing fingers without proof could land you in trouble. Ethan clenched his jaw, biting back the words he wanted to scream. Back in the neighborhood, Ethan noticed things he hadn't before. Mark avoided his gaze. The Johnsons across the street turned their backs when he passed. Even kids who used to wave at him now ran inside when he walked by. Whispers followed him. Curtains shifted. Doors clicked shut. It felt like the whole neighborhood was siding with her. That evening, Mark finally approached. Ethan, we need to talk. Ethan narrowed his eyes. Then talk. Mark sighed, rubbing the back of his neck. People are scared. Karen, she's been telling everyone you set the fire yourself. For insurance money. Ethan's chest tightened. That's insane. She's convincing, Mark said quietly. And now with this storm, with you chasing someone no one else saw. You don't believe her, Ethan interrupted. Mark hesitated too long. Ethan stepped closer. Tell me you don't. Mark's silence was the answer. Ethan's voice shook with fury. You were supposed to be my friend. Mark lowered his eyes. You don't get it. She has files on people. Secret. She uses them. Ethan stared at him in disbelief. So you'd rather betray me than stand up to her? Mark didn't answer. He just walked away, leaving Ethan standing alone in the rain-soaked street. That night, Ethan couldn't sleep. His mind replayed every word, every look, every whisper. At midnight, a noise pulled him to the window. A shadow moved near the ruined cornfield. Ethan grabbed the bat and slipped outside. The yard was quiet. Too quiet. He crept toward the fence. His boots crunched on wet soil. Then he froze. A match struck. A tiny flame lit up a face. Not Karen. Mark. The firelight flickered against his eyes, hollow and guilty. The hood from last night hung around his neck. In his other hand, another gas can. Ethan's heart dropped. Mark. Mark spun, startled. Ethan, wait. I can explain. Ethan's grip tightened on the bat. You were the one? You tried to finish it? Mark's voice cracked. I didn't want this. She made me. She has everything on me. My debts, my job, my family. She said if I didn't help, she'd ruin me. Ethan shook his head slowly. So you chose to ruin me instead. Mark's eyes glistened with shame. I'm sorry. I thought maybe if I scared you off, she'd stop. But she won't. She's not done with you. Ethan stepped closer, his voice sharp. Then tell me what she's planning. Before Mark could answer, a car engine roared at the end of the street. Headlights cut across the yard. Karen's SUV rolled to a stop, its beams blinding. Mark flinched. She's here. Ethan turned, bat raised, but Karen didn't step out. The SUV idled, lights glaring, like a predator waiting for its prey. Then, slowly, the window rolled down. Karen's voice drifted across the wet night, calm and cold. You should have left when you had the chance, Ethan. The SUV door opened. A second figure stepped out, hooded, tall, silent. Not Mark. Someone else. Anna's voice screamed from the porch. Ethan. Get inside. Ethan's pulse hammered in his ears. Mark stood frozen, Karen smiled in the dark, and the hooded figure moved closer with something metallic glinting in his hand. The trap had finally closed. Chapter 8. The Showdown. The headlights burned into Ethan's eyes. Rain dripped from his hair, the bat slick in his grip. Karen's voice cut through the night. Calm. I see. Step aside, Ethan. This isn't your fight anymore. Mark trembled, still clutching the gas can. Please, don't do this. Karen sneered. You're weak, Mark. You always were. The hooded figure stepped forward, metallic light glinting in his hand. Not a gun, an industrial lighter. He flicked it once. A sharp flame flared. Ethan's pulse pounded. You're going to burn everything? Karen tilted her head. Sometimes you have to cleanse the rot so the neighborhood can grow stronger. Anna screamed from the porch. You're insane. Karen's smile widened. Insane? No. Dedicated. Ethan planted his feet. You won't touch my home. Karen's eyes narrowed. Then you'll go down with it. She nodded at the hooded man. The figure crouched, lighter in one hand, gasoline-soaked rag in the other. He pressed the flame to it. Fire bloomed. Ethan charged. The bat cracked against the man's wrist, the lighter clattering into the mud. Flames hissed out in the wet soil. The man howled in pain, clutching his arm. Ethan ripped the rag from his grip and threw it aside. Karen slammed her SUV door and stormed forward, her face twisted. You fool! Do you know what you've done? Ethan swung the bat again, this time at the gas can still in Mark's hand. It burst, spilling liquid across the ground. The air filled with the sharp sting of fuel. "Get back!" Ethan shouted. "This ends now." Neighbors' doors flew open. People stepped out, drawn by the shouting, the headlights, the chaos. "Call the police!" Anna screamed. Phones lit up in the dark. Whispers spread through the crowd. "It's Karen, she's behind this." Karen froze, realizing the eyes of the neighborhood were finally on her. Her mask cracked. "He forced me," she yelled, pointing at Ethan. "He threatened Mark. He's dangerous." But Mark shook his head, tears streaming. "No, it was her. She made me do it. She planned all of this." Gasps rippled through the crowd. Karen lunged at him, claws bared. "Liar!" Ethan intercepted, shoving her back. She stumbled, slipping in the mud, her pristine clothes streaked black. The hooded man groaned on the ground, clutching his wrist. Ethan yanked the hood down. His breath caught. "Mr. Whitman." "The HOA president." Anna gasped. "It was you." Whitman's face was pale, sweat mixing with rain. She owns me. She knows everything. If I didn't help." Karen screamed, a sound more animal than human. "Cowards! All of you!" The neighborhood erupted. Voices shouted. Phones recorded. Lights glared from every house. For the first time, Karen looked small. Cornered. But then, her eyes sharpened again. She rose slowly, mud dripping from her hands, and whispered to Ethan, just loud enough for him to hear. "This isn't over. You don't know what I have. You don't know who I've told." Ethan's grip on the bat tightened. "It ends tonight." Sirens wailed in the distance, growing closer. Red and blue lights flickered against the wet pavement. Karen smiled through the chaos, her eyes wild. "You think the police will save you? No. When I fall, I take all of you with me." And then she did something no one expected. She snatched the gas can from the ground, lifted it high, and hurled it straight at Ethan's porch. Anna screamed. The can smashed against the steps, fuel splashing across the wood. Karen reached for the fallen lighter, her fingers inches from it. Ethan lunged. "If you love watching my video then, make sure to like and subscribe my channel.